How's it going? Ryan Troy back with another video for you today. And in this video, I am joined by somebody that you may all know. Now, I recently made a video about how throughout the years as photographers, we had to evolve and keep adapting to things that life threw at us with new business aspects and things. Now, my guest has been in business for himself for over 30 years. I would like us all to welcome Matt Irwin.
G'day everybody, how you going? It's fantastic to be here, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Now, I would say that this would be a little bit different of a interview, but I've been on your channel watching a lot, and I see that a lot of these questions have been asked, but I still want to put my own twist in it and go. So to start off, let's start off by going with, when did you get into photography and what pushed you into photography?
Yeah. Look, that's I first probably picked up a camera before I was something like 8 years old. It was my dad's medium format twin reflex 120 camera, which is around here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I've still got it. And then look, by the time I was probably something like 10 or 11 or 12, I was just really interested with the idea that you could create a moment. So to answer your question, it's been over 40 years when I first started playing, and then it started to evolve into what you see today. When I was 13, 14, 15, I was shooting cityscapes and landscapes at that age. Like I was attracted to the city. I was attracted to the lights, the cinematic nature of it. And as I've talked about before, you know, the film Blade Runner really had an impact on me in the early 80s. So that was all starting to evolve almost 40 years ago now.
Right. And I understand that first you wanted to get into video. And And see, this actually was something I was doing myself. And as you said before, just with all the equipment and the extra people that you needed, it was like, hey, well, I could do photography by myself, you know? So
yeah, exactly right. I mean, filmmaking was my number one passion, and I was making animated videos on a computer, and I was shooting really bad videos with my mates. We were pretending to be ninjas, and you know, it was the time when a movie called The Toxic Avenger came out, and we were learning all these stunt moves, so we were able to do quite complicated action sequences, which were all rehearsed, of course, because it's like a dance. So filmmaking was totally where I wanted to go. And then by the time I was like 18 or something, it was just like, I can't do it. It's too expensive, and obviously stills image making is very similar to filmmaking, but much cheaper. And that's where the paths diverged. But the reality is, as I've continued to make, like, I've worked on numerous short films, I've worked on television commercials, and I've worked on music videos, all at the same time as running my photographic business. So I've always kept in video. And of course, now that I'm in the YouTube space and we create a lot of content, I mean, wow, you know, video is a huge part of my existence now, once again. And I'm really happy about it. I love it. I just love it.
Now, do you think if we had, because as you see the camera that, let's say you get a Z6 II or whatever, right? It does fantastic video. Do you think that it probably would have changed if, let's say when you first was picking it up, it was this easy to get into video? You think you still would have went the photography path, or you think you would have been mostly video, dabbling in photography?
That's a difficult question to answer, but I definitely would have, it would have been a 50-50 split minimum. I mean, you know, because I very much just wanted to do my own thing, and I was just a kid, right? I'm just 17, 18, and I wanted to just be able to go out and create. Like, I wasn't working for anybody or anything. And when you looked at the cost of shooting 16mm film or SP Betacam, which was kind of the best video format then, it was thousands and thousands of dollars. And so it was simply prohibitive. But if you could do it now, like it's digital, and there's really, once you buy the camera and one memory card, you're there, you're on. And the quality of what we have today is even better. I definitely would have deep dived further into video for sure. And yeah, I mean, Yeah, for sure. No question.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump straight into this. Now, if it's one thing that I've got a lot from your channel is just the fact that when it comes to business, you have found a way to continue to be, I'm not going to say, I want to say profitable, but it's not like I know you're, but still you've
I'm
been able to
surviving. I'm
stay.
surviving.
Right, exactly. That's the
Yep.
perfect way to put it. Yeah,
Yep.
for over 30 years. Now,
Yep.
can you tell me how did you start this? What were there risks that you had to take?
Yeah.
Like, can you give me all of that, just the beginning and to where you are now?
Yeah. So the very first time I started to sell work is this is going to seem crazy, but it was street photography. So let's call it landscape photography or streetscape photography. And I actually sold it in a furniture store, would you believe? And it was like, wow, I've sold my first pick. And this was, I think it was 1990. April of 1990, because that's how I say my business started at that point. And then that same year, it was like, well, how do I get my images in front of the most number of people with the minimum amount of cost, right?
Right.
And because I had no money, I was 18 years old, and I decided to, and this might seem crazy, but I decided to start at markets. And so I started at a local market stall, and the overheads are low. It was like $30 and you can set up a stall. And I printed and framed and mounted lots of pictures. I spent every penny I had to put it all together. And I actually made money. The very first time I set up this market stall, I made like $200. And for an
Nice.
18-year-old 30 years ago, that might be like $500 or $600 or even more today.
Right.
And I was like, wow. And I heard this story about Jim Morrison, that at the start of his career, he was so shy, he couldn't face the audience, so he'd turn around the other way. And I was so shy putting my work up there, because this was fine art photography. It was just streetscapes and whatever I wanted to photograph, and I put it up for sale. And then so every week I did a market, and it grew and grew. And within about just a few months of that, a buyer from a major department store like Macy's or whatever came to me and said, if these images were on greeting cards, we would sell them. And so I went and got a part-time job to pay for my first print run. And by the end of 1990, like right in December of 1990, I'd actually produced 16,000 greeting cards, which went on to sell in this store for the next decade. So that's kind of the very, very start. What was great about a market is 10,000 people walk past you every day. And this is before the internet and before social media. So how can you get exposure that's so much? And this was actually one of the very best ways. And from there, I just had so many people walk past and buy work. And it just led to me meeting people and working on films and doing all sorts of photo shoots. And within sort of a couple of years of just being in that space, and I made a few decisions like, you're going to turn up, you're going to be there every Sunday, you don't miss a single one, be reliable. If someone's coming back to buy a picture because they saw it 3 months ago and they're going, oh, I've got to go buy that picture, you've got to be there. So I was super disciplined about those things, and it just all grew and grew from there. And sort of within, 3 to 5 years, I was producing posters, and a few years later calendars, and then books, and lots of commercial photography. It just came out of people literally just seeing my work and going, well, we like it, we can see you can do it, right, let's work together, and so it was like a current day version of, say, Instagram, but in a way far better, because it was real right, relationships, real people. They could ask you a question and they could tell who you were. In a way, Instagram, you can hide a little bit reality. Standing at a market, you're just there talking to each other.
Right. So the thing is, now you have this nice, successful business, but I personally feel, just from watching a few of your videos, that even if photography wasn't, the thing that you were into, you would still be an entrepreneur. You would still be very great at it, because your marketing strategies. I watched this video where you was talking about books, that it was certain books with the covers that didn't sell, and all you did was, because he spoke about how let's say you have Apple and it's a phone, and these phones don't sell, right? 3 years from later, the technology is old, but the book isn't. The photo book is still the same. So instead, what you did was you printed different covers, and then you took it out the wrapping, out the paper, you put it back, you packaged it, and then you sold it again. And there it goes. Yeah, and you sold it again.
This is the most popular one, but if it wasn't, I can just take it off and put a new jacket on. So that's exactly what you're talking about. So yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And that has to do with so much than just being a good photographer. I feel now in the days that we're living in right now, it's as a photographer, you need to know more than just photography. You got to know marketing. You're literally a business of yourself. And that's why oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, look, I kind of feel like photography is about 10% of it, and business skills is like, and that's covering, marketing and budgeting, like everything is like another 50%. And then interpersonal skills, like how do you work with people? How do you get on with people? Are you friendly? That's another like almost 50% of it. And actually, photography skills and what camera you own. This is why I laugh so much when I see these kind of clicky videos about, oh, the spec on this camera is going to mean that a certain company is dead. And I'm like, right. That's got very little to do with actually, successful photography. So, that ends up being like 1%. Yet right. it's 100% of what some people talk about. So, yeah, look, I certainly see myself as a communicator before I see myself as a photographer. And if you don't have a really strong grasp of the numbers and how to tell your own unique story, then you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, you can be an enthusiast, but if you want to have a mortgage and buy a house with photography, then you've got to have all that other 90% of skills. Absolutely, no question.
Right. And topics like these, I feel, are extremely important. Now, when we go into YouTube, if you look at any other niche on there, things about business gets a lot of clicks. But when you look at photography and you look at people that make business videos on photography, they kind of don't. And us as content creators, and not even just content creators, because let's say we were cell phone manufacturers, we are going to put out what the people want to see. They drive what we do, because without them, there wouldn't be any us. So what do you think is the reason why in the photography space, it's so like people aren't focused on the business part and they're focused on everything else? Like, what do you think it is? And do you think we could even fix that?
Well, it's pretty clear to me. What I would say is that probably 90% of our audience, maybe higher, are enthusiasts and hobbyists. They're not professionals. So when we start talking about business, it's like, yeah, that's nice, and that's right. Cool. But I actually do it because I love it, not because I'm paying my mortgage. Right. So I think it's as simple as that. So that's not a respectful or disrespectful statement. It's just simply a fact that probably the majority of photographers, and it's probably always been the case, are not professionals. Like if you're talking about at the peak of cameras being sold, 120 million were sold back in, I think it was 2010. There were no more professional photographers. There were a lot of people probably calling themselves or wanting to be, but I would still say 100 million of that 120 million were not professionals. And now it's something like 5 million cameras sells a year. And let's say we all upgrade every 4 years on average. Then what that's saying is maybe there's somewhere between 10 and 20 million photographers. I wouldn't think that more than 1 million of those are actually full-time working, paying their mortgage or living their life through photography. And that's, so it's simply numbers. 90% right. of our audience are not interested in the business side of it. And that's completely cool. It's just a statistic. That's all it is.
Right. It is what it is.
it is right, what it is. And so to answer your question, how do you solve it? I for me, what I'm doing is it's just a broad mix of things. And sometimes I'll do a deep dive business video on say Nikon, just because I think people don't actually dive into the business side. They just look at other stuff. And I
Right.
do talk about my business, but I just have to recognize that the 10%, you'll only get 10% of your peak, and I'm cool with that. Like, I'm really at one with the fact that I'm going to make a video that might just be about clouds wafting across the sky, because I'm saying today we're just going to be zen.
Right.
And if 500 people watch, I'm good with it, because
Yes. Yes.
that's me. That's my heart and soul. And some days I'm up, and some days I'm sideways, and some days I'm down, some days I'm cloudy. You know what I'm saying? And so we've got to continue to do it, to do what fills our souls. And we can see someone like Peter McKinnon does this. He'll do a Canon R5. It fell off my drone and crashed, and it gets 500,000 views. And then he
Right.
goes, sometimes we've just got to, be chilled, and it might get 50,000 views. And it's like, you
Right.
can see the difference, and that's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It is okay. I'm actually just getting to that space where I'm learning that it is okay, because
Yeah.
I really want to help people, and that's why I have this, because I want to bring on people that even if I don't have this information, I could reach out to somebody that does, and it could be helpful. And even if it's not thousands of people that watch it, if 300 people choose to watch it and they get something from it, then I feel like I did my job.
And
Right.
yes, and the thing is, we can look at the numbers and go, oh, 300 is not a lot, because blah blah gets 25,000 views, and then you go, hold it a second, 300 is still a lot of people. If you put 300 in a cinema, you'd fill half of most cinemas. Or you put 300 in a church hall, it's full, right? Or in a
Right.
church. So
That
we
is
can
true.
lose sight of what those numbers actually mean. You've got 300 people sitting there watching you, thinking you're amazing. That's awesome. So,
Yes.
we can easily lose sight of these stratospheric numbers that people get in the millions. But honestly, it's still like, I just hit the 25,000 subscriber mark, and I'm thinking,
Congratulations.
I don't know if you know the Australian Tennis Open, if you've ever seen the Australian tennis, like the that happens here. Anyway, it's a massive stadium that holds 15,000 people, and I was thinking to
Nice.
myself, well, I can almost fill 2 of those. That's
Yeah.
nuts. That's just nuts.
Yes.
But if you look at Matt Hapoya or Peter McKinnon, you kind of go, oh, well, they're in the millions, where it's nothing. But then you go, no, actually, it's amazing. And the
Mhm.
key to longevity is being yourself. Just be yourself and take risks with your content in regards to, showing who you really are.
Right.
And that'll, from my perspective, that's the best way to move forwards. If we try to be something else or someone else, it'll burn us out. But if you're being you and passionate, for me, that I'm 50 years in, and that passion still is still burning strong. So
Right.
yeah, the best person you can be is obviously yourself. So I totally endorse it.
All right. So I want to ask 2 more questions, but real quick.
Yeah,
I
man.
want to get us out of here pretty quick. So and both of these questions are going to relate to itself. Now, you being in the printing field with your business, right?
Yeah.
My question is this. We all know that, the internet is here, social media is here. A lot of people enjoy looking at things right now as soon as they take it. Have you seen any type of decline in prints since everybody has smartphones now? And if so, did you have to adjust how you did your business to stay afloat?
Yeah, look, I think because I've been in photography over 30 years, I've seen film, I've seen the rise of digital,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the global financial crisis, which impacted everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen, after that, pretty quickly on the tails of that, because that's 2008, was the rise of the cell phone, or mobile phone as we call them here. And so the photography industry had a triple hit. We had the global financial crisis, we had the rise of the affordable and amazing digital camera, and then a year or 2 later, the cell phone arrived. And I've always sold a lot of original prints, and there's no question whatsoever that is it's a hell of a lot smaller than it was a decade ago.
Right.
The first thing I did to pivot was to make my first book, because I realized if I made a super high quality artifact where you can get, 200 images for, let's say, $100 instead of I sell large images for $1,000, that would just appeal to a wider audience. Plus, I can get it out into more stores. There's a whole bunch of reasons which we can go through another time. So
Right.
that was pivot number one. And look, I've always been in video, so video has just come into the photographers sort of, you get the question, can you do video? And I
Right.
suppose now it's 50% of the conversation. Whereas if we went back 10 years ago or even less, it was 0% of the conversation, right? Nobody thought that a photographer would do video as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting to a time in my life where it's almost like I've peaked. Not peaked in a bad way, but what I suppose I mean is, as a photographer, I've kind of climbed every mountain that I wanted to climb. I've photographed premiers and princesses and queens, and I've kind of photographed everybody you can think of on the planet. I've released books. I've traveled all over the world with my photography, and I'm really loving transitioning into this space here, which I think I feel to me like I haven't even scratched the surface of the community. I don't know about you, but for me, as a photographer and running my own small business, I have felt actually quite isolated the whole 30 years. And I feel more part of a community today than I've ever felt in my entire career. And it was one of the, there was a few reasons why I started this channel, but that was one of the main reasons. Was I wanted to build just people around me to chat with and share with, and because let's face it, photographers, we nerd out, we love technology, but we're also quite artistic. We're quite sensitive as well. So we've got these two sides to us that don't necessarily make any sense. And all of my kind of friends that I grew up with, we went night clubbing and dancing together. They're all guys that work in offices. They don't understand this world that we're in. So I'm just loving this next part of my journey, which is being part of a community. And as you say, just sharing art, sharing ideas, sharing how the business side works. There's so much to share and talk about. We are so spoilt with technology and gear and what we can do that anything you can think of creatively, we can almost do it now, and it doesn't cost very much. That's the crazy thing. So, as you can see, I could talk about this forever, but I'm keeping it short for you. So that's it.
So I just want to say, Matt, thank you again for coming. He literally came so last minute. I messaged him. He said, "Hey, well, let's do this in 2 hours."
Yeah, let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Like, hey, well, I got to put the kids to sleep, and after that, we could get into it. So thank you. I would definitely love if I could have you on another time, and we could continue this conversation, because there's so much to you that I would love to learn. It's so much to you that these people on YouTube just don't know. And it's crazy. Please go through his channel. His old videos, his new videos, is so much stuff there for you to learn. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here. And what I love about your channel is you are a big thinker. And I look forward to, I watched your video about you wanting to change the approach to the channel. And I thought, good on you. That's a great move. So I look forward to seeing that. And I look forward to being a part of that in any way you will like.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, man.
Peace.